Hey, this is John Mathis here in the Mansion Studios. In the control room was Steve Hess. Steve is with Steve Hess and Southern Salvation.
Yes.
We got our coffees.
We're ready.
And we want to talk about making records, as we call it. Because
Excuse me.
Probably because of our age.
Yeah.
We called it making records. You may call it recording or going to the studio, whatever you call it, but we're going to talk about making records, Steve.
That sounds great. I want to kind of say some things to folks who aren't the pros yet, who haven't made 1,000 records. Who this is a new process for them, because it's hard for us to remember back. I've been recording since I was 9, and I know you with your dad, you've been around your entire life, but not everyone has.
Yeah.
And so it's a new thing for them. So if you're someone right now, you're singing at church and someone said, you need to make a record, or they're thinking about traveling and singing, and it's that time you're going to record. I don't think the very first thing you have to do is think about preparation. The first thing is vision.
Okay.
Vision. What are you going to record? You just don't want some random group of songs unless you want an eclectic random group of songs, then that's your vision. But generally there'll be a theme. Are you going to do a hymns project, or are you going to do this? Once you have that vision and you know what you want to do, it's song selection. And if you're a soloist or you're a group, a song could be a great song, but it might not be a song that you're ever going to sound good on. So listen to songs, sing along with songs, and try to sing songs that make sense with who you are.
Should they ask their mother what they think about them singing?
Well, sometimes depends on who the mother is. But go to the most knowledgeable person you have in your circle, I think is a good idea. For instance,
who will be honest?
It may be your choir director at church.
Yeah.
Your choir. Look, I'm thinking about singing some songs. Can I go? You know my voice. I sing in your choir. Do you think this would work better for me, or this? The person with the most knowledge you can get a hold of in your circle, and start there. And so you get your song selection. Even with a group, I hear groups all the time, and they'll sing a song that's a good song, but it's a song they should have never sang, because it doesn't fit who they are. And and most of the time, if you're paying for the project, time is money, and so that's an important first step. Then, if you're a soloist and you've not done much singing in the studio, the last thing in the world you want to do is show up the day of the recording session unprepared to sing the songs, where you have to stop 15 times, or you're going to have to spend a fortune on tuning afterwards because it's so bad, only because you've not spent the time to be ready. And one tool that I like to use even today on all of the smartphones, and if not, you can download an app. There's a voice recorder.
Yeah.
It's got no enhancements. It's got no effects. You want the cheapest, rawest thing you can find, and you want to practice on it. And then listen. If you can't tell if you're in tune, go to your choir director, or go to your mom, go to whoever can. If you need to work on pitch, sing it 1,000 times. Know it front to back. And I know some people who have this theory, well, no, that steals creativity. But my opinion on it, preparation gives you time for creativity.
Just read an article about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you go in and you've sang that song so many times that you walk into the booth and you just nail it, well then because as a producer, and if you're doing your own record, you're the producer, the number one responsibility is what? It's time management. Yeah. You've got a budget, the clock is running. Well, if you spent 4 hours on the first song, and 4 hours worth of your budget, and your budget's only 10 hours, what are you going to do for the other 9 songs?
And most independent artists are their own producers, and they have to self-produce. And I know not everyone's talented in every area, but you can learn some tips and things to be the best you can be. Like the pitch thing. And, a lot of pitch is... sometimes a lot of pitch is just unfamiliarity with the melody. And once you really know the melody of the song... that helps a lot of pitch issues. But
and if you came in today and you've sang this song 1,000 times and you've listened to the recordings and you nail it, well then you have time to do things like, the last half of that second verse, I'd like to try doing it a little different. And that's when creativity comes, because then if you're with an engineer and he's good and you want to know that before you get there, then he's going to give you, you know what if you try this? And you have time for that process. If you don't, you're going to waste so much money, and it's going to limit the quality of the product that you can end up with.
Well, I've worked with you on a couple of records, CDs, projects, albums, and all of these things I've watched you, because you have the history in the past with music. I've always been amazed and impressed. Come recording day, come the time in the studio, you have all the bases covered, you have everything mapped out, everything laid out, you've done all your homework, you've done all your preparation, and therefore when it is time to be in the studio, you seem to enjoy it, and you seem to feel that creativity. You get to enjoy that creativity because you've done all of the prep work and you've done all of those things you're talking about.
You know, I thought of an analogy, John, that might, if a lot of the people that would be interested in what I just said, that are say church singers, their experience so far has been in church. One analogy that might help them understand is the church cantata or the Christmas musical. And what I mean by that is this: if you've ever been involved in those, and I've been in 1,000 of them, there's all those Wednesday night after church rehearsals, and then there's this extra rehearsal, and then learn your part and rehearse, and it's a pain, and it's hard work. But then when you show up on Christmas morning to sing the program, it's a blast.
Yeah.
This is the same thing. If you'd have just showed up on Christmas morning and nobody knew their parts, it would be horrible. You'd want to hide. It's the same thing with recording. You just want to prepare every detail you can think of so much so that recording day is Christmas morning. Yeah. That's the fun day. That's when you can, because you've already done all the hard work. You've done the wood shedding. That's all behind you. And if you'll do that, you'll be able to get a far greater project for the amount of money that you have to spend.
We talked about that a little bit. It's kind of like building a house.
Yeah.
You got to have the blueprints laid out ahead of time and know what kind of house you're building, where the rooms are going to be at. Then you can decorate when you're in the studio.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
You can do the decoration when you're in the studio.
Can I use that?
You can use it.
That's great. That's the truth. I mean, that's it.
Anything else you'd like to add to the topic of making a record?
Well, I think, too, if you're choosing a studio, for instance, I think if you don't know anything about studio, and if you're blessed to have a couple choices where you live, of course, if you want to do vocals, you need to call John Mathis at Mansion Entertainment. But if you have choice, go and ask the guy, look, I'm thinking about recording. Can I get some examples of the people that have worked here? And if you hear something, oh, that sort of is in my neighborhood, and you like what they did, well, that's probably a good fit for you. If you sing ballads and you go to a studio where the only thing they record is punk rockers, that might not be a good fit for you. So do your research and find a place that has a sound that you like, and go there and record.
Good. That's good advice. I have found in studios, a lot of guys that have studios, especially their home studios or across the country, they're doing that because it's their passion. But in their passion, they also have a genre of music they really, really love.
Yeah.
And if it's Journey from the 80s and you go to record something outside of that, you're probably going to get a mix that sounds like Journey from the 80s.
Yeah. And these principles follow through whether you're the guy making your first recording, or if you get to a place where you're using session musicians, it's a big session. Well, then even your demos for the musicians, you want to spend a lot of time in preparation for that, and that's sort of on a different level. But when we go in the studio to do a big record, I mean, everything's arranged before.
Oh, you do. You have it all covered. You know where. You even know what instruments you want to hear during these places in the song. You do your homework.
And I think that's a process,
and your records turn out very well.
That's a process, too. Once you've done more and more recording and you learn more and more, then you're able to increase your ability to be prepared. But boy, just please don't show up unprepared. It will cost you money.
Yes, my dad used to say that. If we weren't ready when we went to the studio, he would get a little aggravated because he was paying for us to rehearse.
That's right. That's the truth. We can rehearse at home.
Yes. Well, we did. And if we did, yes. So, yes, don't go pay to rehearse.
Yeah.
But that's it. There's some information. Steve's got a great musical background. So, I always like having guys who have done it a long time, who have a lot of inside knowledge. And a lot of times our knowledge comes from making mistakes. So sometimes in this business, the best thing to know is to know what not to do. So that's some information on making records.
Yes.
Be sure and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below. Thanks, Steve, for being here as always.
Loved it.
We'll see you in the next video.